Welcome to the Artist Academy podcast, a place where we focus on the business side of art to help you attract more customers, increase profits, and ultimately live a life of creativity and financial freedom. I'm your host, Andrea Earhart, and this week's episode features California-based muralist Morgan Bricca. I have stumbled upon the more experienced version of myself in Morgan. I could talk to her for hours. She has this confidence and positivity of an experienced artist, one who has dealt with the past trials of owning a business, but happily perseveres on because she knows from years of experience how the profits far surpass the struggles. For example, her project minimum nowadays is $7,500. Yep, I said minimum. Granted, she lives in one of the wealthier parts of the United States where customers are happy to pay that, but still, she knows her worth, sticks to what she's good at, and has built up a wealth of knowledge about the subject of murals, so much so that she wrote a book on it. I told you we're similar. The Mural Artist's Handbook is what she wrote, and this woman, she just needs no further introduction. So let me know what you think about this week's episode with Morgan Bricca. Hello, everybody. We have Morgan here. We have we're like mural sisters because we both have a book. We both do the teaching thing. We both do murals. And so I'm really excited to talk to one of my own, really.
Really?
So hello, how did you get to where you are today?
Oh, Andrea, let's see. It started with quitting my job when I wasn't that happy in IT. And then I actually owned this cheapo condo. Like when I say cheapo, I can just put that in parentheses and bold. And so we needed a lot of work. Like the ceiling is dripping and everything is linoleum and falling apart. So the cheapest thing was paint. I couldn't afford a window. I couldn't afford tile. So I just painted the ground to look like travertine. I just painted a window where I thought a window should be. I gave myself an ocean view. The cabinets were like, everything was like, you just cringe. And so I painted the cabinets. Like I learned basic painting techniques. I actually had a friend who was a professional painter, and he was trying to learn more about faux finishes. So he'd come over to my house on the weekend and we'd practice Venetian plaster, making paint from scratch. He taught me how to tape properly, how to get a good drop cloth. Like I'd put down a sheet and he was like, yeah, no, you don't want to do that. So actually, I feel like inadvertently, I learned a lot of the house painting tips and tricks, which I think are so useful for house painters to learn, like kind of right off the bat. Like that's more the angle I came at it. But I was very much just handy and like working my hands. I didn't know it because both my parents went to college. You get a good degree. They wouldn't let me take auto shop in college, or art. Like it was like, you go get a professional job. And so I think when I quit my job, it was a good paying job. And I certainly freaked out my parents, and they're so proud of me now.
Yes, I feel like that's every parent's like, oh man, like you're going to go for your art journey. Oh, good for you. I hope it works out.
Everybody out there, you can send this to your parents. I'm happy to be a data point. They are like, all their friends know about what I do. They have my artwork and then my books and everything. And they just talk about me all the time. Like they're so proud. Like I'm the kid who made it or something like that. Where I was truly the failure in the family for many years. So.
Oh, I love that. Such a comeback story.
A comeback story.
Okay, so you have your book. Tell me what your book is about. I have not read it, but I'm very interested in it. Yes, please.
The Mural Artist's Handbook. So, what happened is COVID hit and my work, when everybody's work for the first month, I think everybody was kind of like, what is this? How much fear should we have? As people gauged the first month or two, all my projects dissolved. And then, it was like, well, this might be here for a little while. And I really had this sense I wanted to be of service. And I have been so busy painting, I feel like I really haven't given back to the community. And also busy being a mom, I want to add. My kids are my first job has been as a mom to my two kids. And my second job has been as a mural artist. And so I guess during COVID, I was feeling like, how can you be of service in the world if you're stuck at home? And I thought, I like to write and I know how to do something well, and I'd love to share with people. So I wrote the book.
Mural Artist's Handbook. And what all is in this? I've actually looked through this. It's on Amazon, right?
Yeah. on
Okay, yeah.
Amazon. I tried to get it in independent booksellers, but like Amazon can just undercut every independent bookseller by like $7-8. And it's just, and it's a lot of work to get in the independent booksellers. Even though I haven't even done digitally yet, I really like holding it. There's pictures in it. There's quotes in it. Practice is the best of all instructors. Yeah, I really wanted it to be something that I wanted to hold and that I liked and was really a keepsake of what I had learned in my career. So what's in it is I kind of break it down by project type because I have found that the metrics for success are so different. And even the process is so different if you're doing a residential or commercial or school mural or community mural. And so I kind of break down those 4 sections. I also talk about how things have changed because, I've been doing it 20 years and obviously it's such an exciting time. And I think people forget, like, this is happening now. There's a lot of work. There's a lot of money in it. There's a lot of attention in it. That was not the case 10 years ago or prior.
Really? Oh, tell me about
gosh.
that.
Oh, so like, I started in 2000 and, the city of LA from 2000 to 2010 banned all murals. No murals were legal because they hadn't worked out essentially the permissions on how do you categorize advertising versus art. And I think they'd had some lawsuits or things like that. And also, like, I mean, look at the brands. Like I'm on the West Coast. We have Fry's, we have Trader Joe's. Those were like the best commercial jobs you could find. And now, like every major brand, every ad agency is hiring mural artists. Like that was not the case. They were like cheesy school handprint murals, grapevine stencils in kitchens, and like kind of cringy. Like I had a hard time when I started just with the word mural. Like I wanted to change it. Like I do large outdoor wall art because murals had such a bad cachet. Now that's not the case. That's not the case at all right now.
Yeah, there does seem to be just a high demand right now for all of the things. And you say grapevines, and I'm like, oh, I know exactly what you're talking about.
That was what people thought of. I mean, I've listened to a couple podcasts of yours now.
When I was starting to write my book about a year ago, I was on Amazon and I stumbled upon yours and I was like, oh, wait, somebody's already written it. And I was like, wait, no, this is kind of different in a way that we talk about different things and you're more about the tangible, how to go about it. And I was like, so almost our books hand in hand would be like the complete thing. Right. So because we both go at it at different perspectives or different techniques. And I really like that you have the experience from 20 plus years or however long. So yeah. So tell me about your book a little bit more. I'm more interested.
Okay. So I guess one thing, and you're probably going to relate to this also, is that I felt like I was able to make a business out of it because I just embraced the other aspects of running the business, like building a website, marketing myself, giving proposals, showing up as a professional. And I felt like some of those I could just share. And also balancing out like the soft skills, running a life, like small business and life balance management. So my whole 7th chapter. So I go through the 4 types of murals as I described, like commercial, residential, school, and community, because like VARA rights don't come into play if you're doing a residential. And with residential, the whole contract and securing the job and creating a design, they're so different. They roll faster. What they're looking for, it's super fun and lucrative in a lot of ways. And I think it's a great way for mural artists to both quickly start making money and actually get better quickly at what they do. I think some artists focus on the commercial, but my bread and butter can still be residential. I can just make a ton of I can find a $10,000 or $15,000 residential project now, which is incredible. I mean, my minimum is $7,500. I know you like to talk money, so I thought I'd just be straightforward with that. And like some residential projects like are small, and I'm like, I feel so bad. Do you want me to do more? This lady, this last month, she's like, no, you're worth it. We want you to do just this, and we're going to pay you $7,500 for it. So like, come on, are you going to turn away that kind of like great job? Like it's residential, and it's not going to make me famous, but it certainly pays the bills. And that's a balancing act that artists always will be choosing. It's both. It's a matter of both.
$7,500 is way over my average mural that I typically get.
Yeah. So wait, we really have to qualify this because a lot of your listeners may not be aware of geographic differences in San Francisco Bay Area. At least twice the cost of living, maybe 4 times the cost of living, and the salaries are maybe twice, but maybe not quite. So that is, I would say if I was in the Midwest, it would be half that at my level. Yeah.
So
and that would be what I expect. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned that too, because I've gotten some shit from other artists who are more on the coast, and they're like, you should be charging more. And I'm like, you don't understand small town Missouri. Like, I'm doing the best I can.
Yeah. And it's great. And it's just a different market. And also, you do encourage artists to move to places and find jobs where the market is different. And, it's great. Come to California for a couple weeks to paint murals, but, don't try to buy a house here.
No. No, yeah. The one thing we have, the cost of living in Missouri is pretty low. But but the murals, I mean, you could still make good money doing murals here and everywhere.
Yes. I'll just tell a funny side story, which is I lost like 3 years worth of earnings and savings in the Bitcoin crash in the last little bit. I was a Bitcoiner.
It'll go back up though. It'll go back
up. Maybe. But I was like, you know what? I made a lot of beauty in the world. And it's almost like a death, when something happens and the reason you thought you were doing it goes away. It's like it really does not matter whether you're in Missouri, whatever amount you're making. If your life is working and you like your life and you're painting beautiful walls and making your community happy, you're doing the same thing I am. The numbers just scale, but it's like, are you getting to just like bring beautiful artwork to your community? And like, if your life is working and you're enjoying it and your money is working, there's a certain threshold where it's like you're making it. I don't care if your minimum is $500, if that's where you based on where you live, like make it work. And it's a beautiful life. And the money is secondary.
Yeah, so true. How do people find you nowadays?
Oh man.
Versus how did they find you back then?
I because I've had a good website for 20 years, I mostly got good web referrals. And then during COVID, I also redid my website and it was hacked and it was down for like 3 weeks and it was really scammy and I had to start from scratch. So basically my lead generation is pretty low right now the last year, but I've been doing it for so long in this area. I get a lot of referrals. I send out a monthly email blast with some of my writings. So people kind of know me and they refer me. I don't get anything off Instagram and I'm not on Instagram that much. It's a lot of repeat clients and referrals and some web hits, but that's coming back and I need to put some energy into it. But the thing is when I stay reasonably busy, I'm like, it's fine.
Yeah. Okay. So back in the day, how did you get started with murals? I know that it's like a very different world nowadays, but I'd like to hear the starting point about how did you start to get those first couple of customers?
Yeah, actually, the way I did it is the way I would recommend anybody do it. Do it on your wall first. Just like figure out paint drips, figure out taping, do your wall, and then do your mom's wall, or your sister's wall, or your grandma's wall. Like do 2 or 3 or 4 before you're like, I'm a mural artist, like make sure you know how to work on a vertical space, maybe do one outside, whatever. So like just do a couple first. That's what I always say. That's what I did. And then this was back in the day, I bought a little business card ad in the local parenting glossy magazine. And that was really how I found my first, and it was $400 a month to get like a business size ad. I mean, right now, if I put $400 into Google a month, I would be so busy, my budget has been like $25, $50. When I started and had no business, it was $400 a month just for a business size ad. So that really also shows how much easier it is to advertise these days. And even getting a business started, like a website, like I knew web design, I knew, how to write in native language, like build a website, like all the tools are so much easier for everybody. Like Wix, you got a website in like 45 minutes.
Yep.
Like Google wants you to advertise and all those tools are like so easy. Like you don't need a college degree to get that, like log in. And you have to be younger though. Like now it's hard for me. That's just an age deficiency.
Yeah, and we were talking before we got on here, and you had mentioned how it's just hard to juggle all the things, and I agreed. I was like, it's hard to, you're putting out content for teaching, and you're doing
Yes.
your
Yes.
murals and all of things. Talk about that.
Well, I'm much more comfortable dropping balls.
Oh,
Yeah, I really, I used to send out my newsletter every 30 days. Like it had to be finished by the end of the month. And now I'm like, 10 a year? And sometimes it comes out the second or the third day of the month. And everyone's going to survive. And I'm like, I never stress about that deadline anymore. Just get over that. And like my podcast, I'll put out like 10 episodes in a month and then not any for a year. I figure that content is out there. I had a down month. That's the reason my website was hacked for 3 weeks and I didn't do anything. I was just like, I'm painting, I'll get to it. I didn't realize what a big deal it was. And it's true, I don't every year, like I've been doing this 20 years. I never know if I'm going to have work in 6 months or in a year. You always just don't know if everything's, and I always do. And so I feel like I'm more relaxed about doing it all and the way I do it all because I think that comes with doing it for a long time. I don't think I'm the best. I don't think I have it all. I'm just willing to just figure out, like Instagram, I'm such a failure at, or I just don't put any effort there. And I haven't even gotten a single job in the 5 years I've been doing Instagram from Instagram. And I'm okay with that. There's a lot of artists that are really strong on Instagram, and that's where they spend their time and that's where they market. I think it's super smart. I think that's the way to go. As long as I have work, I'm not always hustling for every single job.
yeah, I can relate to you on parts of that because I started this print of the month club where I send out these mini prints. And I used to be like, okay, they need to go out on the first of every month. And then it was like, okay, they just need to be out in the first week. And now it's like they go out sometime during the month. Nobody said anything. That's the thing. Nobody's like, is my print coming? Like I'm waiting for it. And like, cause people are busy. Like people don't know. So people don't know, if you're sending your monthly newsletter, they're not like, it didn't come on the first. So what do you put in your monthly newsletter? Because I found a monthly newsletter to be good for like selling prints and whatnot, but I haven't tried it for murals. Are you getting mural customers from it? Are you keeping in contact with your mural customers?
Yes.
Who's on there?
It's mostly a client contact thing, but I just write a little essay. It's actually a lot of words. It wouldn't work on any other format. And I write about some little aspect I'm thinking about in my life, or maybe the project, sometimes giving people ideas, like, how's your Zoom background? I'll like create a little story about like, have you thought about this or that? I don't know. And I think as an artist, when people get to know you, then they're more loyal and they understand why you create and they're more likely to refer you. So I tends to be pretty positive in general. I show a good side too.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You just keep it in touch. Do you offer them anything in your newsletter?
In fact, because I'm so lazy, I used to like upload the project ahead of sending. It was like my checklist was like, I have to upload the project onto my website and have links and link to this and this and this. When I send out a newsletter, there's actually no links to anything. It's just me sharing photos and just saying, hey, y'all, how you doing this month? And I feel like I like to wait until I'm just feeling good and inspired because people will always receive that well. It's like, I want the newsletter to be a gift. If it's a reliable, inspiring, happy, beautiful thing to receive, people will keep clicking. And it's just about almost like a long-term relationship is how I see it. There's no quick grabs happening. Sometimes like once or twice a year, there'll be an event and that's fun. I'll say, hey, if you want to hang out, I'm going to be here at this opening or something like that. But no. It's very old school. Yeah.
I love that because I haven't heard that strategy very, very often. So I'm glad you shared that. So we have a lot of artists who listen to this who are just starting out or newer and they're just trying to get jobs and all of the things. Like what questions can I ask you that will just extract the knowledge from your brain and give it to all of these willing listeners?
Yeah. Well, I do like to be a data point of saying, my life is pretty rad. Like you have the same. I like to work 20, 25 hours a week. Sometimes a lot of weeks I'm working like 9 or 10 months of the year. And the rest of the time, I travel, but I also just really enjoy my life. Yes. Enjoy my friends. I play tennis. I want a balanced, good life like everyone else. And, when I hear artists on your show working 6 days or 50, 60 hours a week, I think, that'll work for a couple of years, but you really have to feed your heart too to keep just going and creative and healthy. So, you want to make sure your pricing allows you to work maybe 30 or 35 hours a week. 50 hours doesn't work. You're not a failure. Like, do 30 and charge a little more and put a little more time into each thing. I also like to be a data point that you get faster. Like, I'm faster. And also, I love to coach people to set a minimum that scares you or set a price that scares you a little bit. Whatever it is for you, raise it 25%. Never feels comfortable. You always feel like, oh, they're going to think I'm a, fill in the blank, and it's not good. And I just do it. And then, they often accept or they don't. But if you find that you can get a steady inflow of leads, like at this point, I only need to paint 2 murals a month. And I get a lot of the murals I bid on. So if I do 4 to 6 proposals a month, I'm going to get 2 projects a month at least. And so if you can you don't need hundreds of people you need about 8 people a month to find you. And 2 of those won't be a good fit and 6 will. You'll bid on them. And you get 2 of them. I mean, actually, I get a higher rate than that. Once somebody's called me and reached out to me, it's a little higher. So that's all you really need. It's much smaller than people think.
Yes. And I love that you just shared those numbers about maybe 8 people or 8 possible jobs and then 6 that would be a good fit and then 2 that you land. That's great because I feel like that's not talked about enough. And a lot of people get discouraged, especially in the beginning when somebody reaches out and then they get ghosted or it doesn't work or their price was too high. Because I just had a customer reach out maybe 2 days ago and they wanted a logo done. And I am completely booked for the rest of the season until I have this baby. And so I was like,
I know. Congratulations.
It's like big and out there.
This is the best job in the world for a mom. Right? Can I just say to all the female painters out there, and you're younger than me, I'm sending my youngest off to college. I never missed a spring break. I never missed a ski week. Sick days, I was like, hey, I can't go paint today. And nobody's in a rush with a mural. They're like, this week or next week. I mean, sometimes, you have to get it done that week, but it's so malleable to your own schedule and your own effort level. And I've always felt like the projects come when I'm ready and then they slow down when I'm like ready to take a month off. And there's no better job and it keeps you fit.
It does.
And your kids think you're cool and you paint at all their schools and you're like, when you're a teenager, they're going to be so thinking what you do is cool and they're going to be so proud of you. It's really, really fun.
Oh, I love that you just reminded me of that. Thank you. Yes. Yeah. The freedom of it. Yeah. Because I'm enjoying the freedom of it, just being like a married person without kids. And so we get to do whatever we want. But I guess you're right. Yeah. As soon as I have kids, I'm going to get to go to their events. I'm going to get to go and do things with them when they need me.
And the other thing is, like, I think until my kids were about 5, I probably did between 5 and 10 murals a year. So, and I know mural takes more than a week. So let's say I was working 5 weeks a year, the first year. It doesn't matter. My business was still there for me in 2 years. I didn't send out the newsletters as often, but it's not like tech. You can just drop out and get a little quiet for a couple of years and then get right back in. There's no problem. Yeah.
Okay. Because I have a baby coming and I'm not sure how much I'm going to want to. I might just dive back in or not. Yeah.
Right now, you're good. So you're fast at what you do. And there's going to be some easy projects that come along your way. And they're going to be like, I can make $5,000 this week. I'm going to strap my baby on my chest and be with her every day. I have pictures of Allie in her bouncy chair while I'm like painting because, I can paint. And she goes on my back and we take walks if she gets fussy and then she's asleep half the time. And I painted a bunch of murals. Actually, one mural I remember in Berkeley, which was like 45 minutes away. I brought a babysitter with me for the day because I'm making so much painting murals. So I would she was like 6 months and I just wasn't ready to leave her during the day yet. It was my second. He'd walk her around the block, take her to coffee and come back. And it was like all day it was a guy. He was within like, a minute or 2 of me. And I was happy with that. And so, because the thing about murals is you make a lot of money when you're actually painting. And so when you're actually painting, if you can just find an extra set of hands that week, you're set. And then you take the 3 weeks of the month off.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good idea. I just love the flexibility and the profitability. You just can't.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, a customer approached me a couple days ago and they wanted a logo painted. And I was like, theoretically, I could like hire out another person. Then I could go and do the finishing touch ups and it would be a hassle, but not too much. But so I bid it at 1,500, which is like, it was just a small logo. And I was like, like maybe it's probably worth 1,000. I don't know, but I'm just going to bid it high. And he said, no, he said that was really too expensive and couldn't do it. But I was like, okay, whatever. Like it doesn't really actually matter. But like that just goes to you. Sometimes I don't get them too. Like it's just,
and you just start to bid higher when you value your time better, and that's okay too.
Yeah. Do you have any crazy stories that has happened? Tell us all the things.
So I painted like 600 murals. I used to paint like 40 a year, and now my goal was to get down to 20 a year and have each one average like $10,000. So I really am trying to go for the higher, because it's just, I don't want to send that many invoices or do that many designs. Like,
yep.
I only want 2 projects a month, so they got to pay well. That's kind of where I'm at. But people always ask me, like, what are the horror stories? And I have had some crash and burn projects. And, you learn the most when they don't work out well. And actually, anytime something doesn't go well, I think it's really important to reflect on like, what part did I play, or how could I have avoided that in the future? And I do that I used to do that more. Now I'm just like, it's easier. It gets easier, but it's always so important. Like, so I'll just review just 2 projects that were total crash and burns. One is I try to be friendly and I just try to overgive, like, oh, I'll just throw that in for $500 and I'll do that. And they started to think that my work, they didn't have to pay me or something. And in the end, it went to court and they kept canceling. They were an hour away from me and I had to go back to court 3 different times. And every day they just not show up at the last minute because this is legal. So just to waste my time, they just started playing this. Like, the woman was really an unhappy person. I could tell that right away. Like, wow, she's not thriving in her heart or in life. And they found some little problem with the work and just refused to pay me. Oh, and so I had taken too small. I usually take a 50% deposit, which I did. But then the project tripled in size. And I did not update the contract. I did not get a higher deposit. So that one went off the rails. And I ended up, they couldn't have delayed it anymore. And I went in front of a judge and I just said, hey, I did this work. It's beautiful. It's all finished. And they owe me the money. And he said, pay the woman. And I got paid in full. But it took a lot of effort. And I wouldn't recommend doing that small claims court. It's like, just get 50% and that saves your butt. So actually I have another project that just happened like 4 weeks ago. First time ever happened to me. A day, I'm like 3-4 hours into the project. And she's like, stop work. You got to stop. Project is canceled. Totally out of my control. She had surprised her boyfriend with a mural. And he turns out a friend drove by this building and said, you're getting a mural on your building? And he's like, I do not like this gift. So she was like, oh, I'm so sorry. I'll pay you the difference. And I was like, you know what? You already paid me half. And I only did 4 hours of work. We're good. We walk away from this and we're both happy. So that, things happen. Take that deposit. The final story I'll share was another one. I don't consider that a fail. That was a success. Have a contract, get 50% deposit. The other one that went off the rails, my friend is a lawyer who's a neighbor, and I had kind of said, I think it's going to take a week, and I was done after 3 days. And these are people who are like, no, we want the full week, and we want you to add like all these animals. And I'm like, no. They're like, we want a deer and a bunny. Well, I think I already had like 6 animals in the small mural, and they like wanted a zoo all of a sudden. When I was done, I was like, they don't understand. This isn't going to help me. This isn't going to help the artwork. And then they say, oh, we saw an exhibit last weekend and it was like this. And it was like, I was like, that's a change in scope. And so what ended up happening was I just went over to their house with the lawyer and I put a big X for the artwork and I gave them all their money back. That was a good solution. And that was recommended by the lawyer. She's like, you don't want to all this small claim stuff or trying to get people, walk away sooner. You can go back and forth, but I was like, essentially, if you don't like the work, you just get a refund and let's keep going on our way. It wasn't worth anybody's time. So yeah, I've had some mighty fails, but I've had like 98% fabulous collaborations. Like I have people who I just love and I get their Christmas letter and like most of the time, I feel like I'm about to meet my new best friend every time I go on a project. And we have fun and it's awesome. And I know artists are so scared of collaborating with people, but people are really awesome. If you hold good boundaries and you love them up and you are being of service and care, but the boundaries are good. Hey, we do 50%. Hey, I don't do free designs. Hey, we got to sign the contract before I start, and you keep your word. I'm going to show up at this time. I'm going to show up on this day. There's like, if you behave not like an irresponsible teenager, but just like somebody who's caretaking, like somebody who is a professional, people just feel comfortable to really be kind. Don't you find that? Clients are awesome.
Yeah, for sure. And I think if you treat them with respect, they'll treat you with respect too. And I think it starts with, just like you said, showing up on time. That's the easiest thing.
Yeah. And sometimes the tone, in the correspondence, the tone in the email, like, hey, this is going to be a blast. I can't wait to jump into this with you. Let's have fun. It's not like I used to be super formal and I toyed with the whole we thing for a few years. Like, I want to be Mural Studios and I'm an organization, I'm a company. And it's like, no, it's just you and me. Let's just do this. And it's way more fun that way for me. Although I'm not sure as a business model,
No, I love it. No, because there is a weird line there. And there's some people that prefer that like stern, like I will get there. Thank you. Bye-bye. Like the thing. But then there's a lot of people, more often than not, I agree with you. People just, if you're excited, they're excited. And I think it helps too that you can be a little more choosy and you get the more profitable jobs. So it does make you genuinely excited.
Totally. I mean, it's really awesome. Like I was just driving to work this morning and I was just happy. Like, I can't believe my life. I'm going to work today. This is okay. And I've been doing it 20 years, like 15,000 hours. I mean, except I already confessed that for the first 5 years of my children's life, that was like 100 hours a year. But still, I've done it a long time and I still love it.
I love that.
I just want to tell everybody, I feel like you are in really good hands with Andrea. She knows what she's doing. Everything I listen to her about her videos, the interviews, she knows what she's talking about. It's so possible to do this. It's such a good life. It's so much fun. It's great to have this kind of support. I mean, you and I didn't have it when we started. We just figured it out. There are so many tips and tricks that make it easier, but basically just hearing and seeing people that are doing it, how they're doing it. I feel like it's the most generous thing in the world. If you knew how much fun Andrea and I were having and what a cool job this is, it's really generous of us to be like, here's how you do it. Here's the golden brick road. Here's the brick and then this brick. And then you just jump here and then you go here. And it's like, come play. And let's work together. And another artist you interviewed, they talk about how when artists cooperate, we all gain, when we share best practices, become more professional as a group. I think there's historically been suspicion among artists or a non-sharing. And I don't think that ultimately helps us. Just isolates us and keeps us poor.
It keeps us poor. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Well, if anything, just hearing that your minimum is 7,500, like I think it makes people think like, oh wait, this is something that I could look forward to, and this is something that I could do too.
Yes, and also I just want to remind you guys, I am the slowest learner. I do very few things even well. Like if I'm making it, anybody could make it. So like I undercharged for so many years and I still just like, I need that minimum because I'll like fall in the first $1,300 for a 3-day project. Why did I do that? How did I do that again? Why did I do that? I need those metrics because I'm not good. But yes, my first minimum was 600 and that was a big deal. I did that when I moved to the Bay Area. It was like 2004 and then it was 1,200. And then it was 2,500 for like 5 or maybe even 8 years, maybe 10 years, 2,500. It's been 5,000 for the last 5 years. And then it was just this year that I moved to 7,500. And that was hard. Oh, wow. And when I was at 5,000 going to 7,500, I was like, I'm never going to work again. That's it. When I went from 3,500, I skipped pretty fast from 2,500 to 5,000. I was only at 3,500 for like a year or two. But I remember when I went to 5,000, I was like, honey, I need your support because I don't think I'll be working the next 6 months, or maybe ever again. I'm going to raise my minimum to 5,000 because it scares me and my career's over. That is not what happens. That's not what happens every time. And right now it's 7,500 and I'm still finding jobs. So, I don't think you need to like jump ahead. You don't need to raise your rate to 7,500 if you've only done it a couple of years. But, every 5 years, you should be almost making double what you were. 10 years, definitely double it.
That is very true. Yeah. Every 5 years, at least, we're making double what you were. It's possible with a career like this.
Yeah. I mean, you can show a huge body of past work. The clients have a great sense of safety and security working with you, knowing that you're an experienced professional. That's a big piece of it, is people just want to know, is the job going to get done? Is it going to get job right? Is it going to be beautiful? You have such a big body of work and you're paying for their safety and their confidence. I mean, when you go get a tattoo, do you want somebody who's done 1 or 2 tattoos and they're totally different? No, if they have like 300, 400, it's your body. If it's your business, it's like, we got somebody good. And yeah, it's twice, 3 times, no problem. What we care about is that our business is going to look pro, right?
Yep, so true. I had 2 recent big murals that were 1,500, which is pretty big for around here. I was so excited about it. And both of them, talking to the person who was hiring me, they were like, we want it done right. We wanted to hire like the best that we knew. We know you come with a higher price tag, but we want that higher level. I was like, okay, great. Okay. I'm like $15,000. Great. Oh my gosh.
Do it. So what you don't realize, what artists don't calculate in, is how much value they're creating with paint. Because so if they did any other material, it would have been a $25,000 or $30,000 project. If they want to do, like I see you have a stone hearth behind you, that's stone work, beautiful, huge price tag. Or they want to do landscaping instead, plant flowers, water it, gardeners over the year. They're going to be paying another $25,000 a year for that. So with paint, you're creating color, beauty, photo ops, attention, like what it does to the value of a business. Like $1,500. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? The people, everyone's going to be like, oh, let's go there. They have great ambiance. It's because of the freaking mural. They are selling so much of whatever they sell. Artists undercut like the actual long tail of what they create. That includes at schools, that includes at businesses, communities, and residential. Like, this is crazy, but one of my clients just told me she's moving again. It's the 3rd time in 4 years. And I'm like, she's like, my daughters, the only thing they're going to miss is their murals. They're moving. They just have to take their murals with them. And I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll put you into January. Great. We'll see you then, and she knows my pricing. They love working with me. They're repeat customers. Sometimes I have heard that people bought a house or they said it was so easy to sell, they just fell in love with the mural in the kids' room. Now, how much did they pay me for that mural, and how much did that improve the housing cost? So that happens all the time.
Yes. Yeah, you're totally right. Because I just wrote a proposal to my local town. So I live right outside of Springfield, Missouri, really small town, but still close to the city. And we have no murals right here. It's very small. And I was looking up facts about murals, adding to the community and whatnot. And they made a very good point on Google somewhere that says like murals and paint are one of the lowest cost projects that you could possibly do for the value that you're getting. Because if somebody put in landscaping, like you just said, the maintenance for landscaping every year, and just to put in the dirt and the cost of the plants. Plus, if somebody wanted to put up, building buildings is another community improvement type thing.
Yeah, how much does it cost to build an arbor and a bench? Like, I get school projects, and they're like, well, we looked at the cost of the bench. And if you include install and, the teak and the engraving, it was like $4,500 and a mural was $3,000. So we went with a mural. And it's like, I'm sorry, I don't know if you swear, but I cannot swear on it. It's like, no shit. You want a wooden bench or you want a mural? Like, for half the cost. It's not about the time that you put into it. It's about the value you're creating in your ideas. And paint is so freaking cheap. You don't even need to put it as a line item. It's like $50. Like, it's embarrassing to put it on an invoice.
Yep.
Don't charge for materials. Charge a lot of money because you're painting a work of art. Like, you're valuing it as like a contribution to the community. You have to think of it in the scale of how much revenue is this bringing towards the business, towards the homeowner. And I swear to God, if you charge triple your prices, it would be less than a fraction of 1%. And maybe we just need to do a better job of really articulating the value of what we create when we pitch to the client. Like, is there a way that you can make sure they understand the value that artwork brings and the value of having it done well?
So true. Yeah. Just looking at it from a value standpoint and not a time standpoint, because for the longest time, I would just value my time and be like, so much an hour is what I would go with. And now sometimes I'm making $100 an hour. Sometimes I'm making $200 an hour, and it's somewhere in between, but it's like, it's more of per project recently. And you're right. It is the value, because that logo that you're painting on the outside of the building is going to let every car that passes by for 10, 20 years know that
especially logo work should be charged at a high rate. So that's the thing, is when you do community murals and it's for a Girl Scout troop or it's for some, children's hospital, you do run across projects where it's like, okay, budget really matters. But if it is a corporate logo, you should be charging. When people do things that are really more strictly for that, you should be charging double, honestly. It's a for-profit endeavor. It's not as much like a work of art.
Yeah, I totally agree. There's some projects that you make all right on, and there's some that you make bank on. And typically it's like businesses know the cost of doing business too. And I just feel like, steering muralists is in particular, like steering muralists towards the business route, the corporate route, it's just more profitable. So I'm glad that you say that too.
It is. And it can be super creative. I mean, I have a lot of really creative. And when people call me for a logo, I say, no, I'm not the right person. Try this person, try that person. Like, logos and lettering aren't my thing. And I love saying no. I always feel like a rock star when I say, no, this isn't a good fit for me. Or if it's like too prescribed, the butterflies have to look exactly like this. Sometimes I'm like, I like to do more creative stuff. Or I say no to faux finishes. I say no to, if it's not really in my strike zone. And that's how I stay excited about the work too. But I want to go back to what you said, because it's so important to not be thinking about the hourly wage. Use the hourly wage on the inside for yourself to make sure you are making at least what you need to make. And as an independent contractor, if you're just starting out, maybe that's $50. But after you've been doing it a couple of years, it should be at least $100, because you're paying your own health insurance. You have your own business. You have business taxes, expenses. So you should be making at least $100 an hour. So in your own internal calculations, track your hours, make sure it's at least $100. But that's like the lowest. And you don't want to bid just at the lowest. You want to bid not associated with your time. You want to look at the value of the project and bid higher. Now, I'm giving this advice and I don't always do it. And I'm not that consistent on it, because sometimes I'm like, oh, it only take me a few days. I should feel bad charging that. That's like a little gremlin that still lives in me. And I'm like, hey, thanks for sharing. Thanks. We're going to go right now. Okay, that's good. Let's charge what you want. The other day, I did 3 times the amount that I was initially going to bid. And it scared me. And I lost my lunch and I couldn't sleep for 2 days. And I still bid that huge amount. And we settled on half that amount, but it's still a really big number. I did it as an exercise. It was hard, but it's like, you got to start somewhere. And then your life, all of a sudden, you're flying first class. That's the only way you get there.
I love it. Yeah. Yeah. Pricing is so weird. It's just
so weird.
Yeah. And I think that's just good to know that it's weird for me and you and everybody.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, I would probably do it for free. And, if there was no work, my price would quickly drop to $500 a mural. Because I'm like you. I'm like, I like to keep painting. If I haven't had work in a couple of weeks, I feel like a ping pong ball. Like, I find that the painting brings me to myself. It brings me on how I want to express myself in the world. Like, there's a river of creativity that feels inherent to who I am, that is not putting a price tag on it. Is just a really hard, lame thing to do. And it's not the reason I create. But again, we're living in a world that money value has this reflection in money, and just embrace it. Just go with it.
Yep, I totally agree. So what is one little bit of piece of advice that you can leave us with before we get off of here? Anything that might be important that you've learned in your many years? I love talking to muralists that have been at it for so long, because you have such a storage of knowledge that we might need to do another interview here in a while to get all of it out.
So, like, it's funny on the outside, my metrics look good. Like, I love what I do. And, I'm making like a lot of money now and I don't work very much. And like, it's like cheating all the time. But you know what? I always have it within a month. Like, a lot of times where I feel like, oh my God, I'm like not good at what I do. Everyone else is better. I'm never going to have any work. Is this going to work? What am I doing? Like, self-doubt is just how the human brain works. And so when you're starting out, you're more likely to believe that self-doubt thing because you don't have enough experience. So it would give you data points otherwise. But I would just say, like, those are your thoughts doing their job. And if you feel called to paint, just keep trying and doing it. And it just keeps getting easier the more you practice. Like, you just have to trust that system. Whatever you decide to spend time with, whatever other job you do, you're going to get better at that job or this job. So I guess my confidence crashes all the time. And so a beginner should know that. It's just part of it. You get turned down all the time. You get people that are like, no, it's too much, or I don't want a mural. And it's like, oh my God, they don't know. They should have picked me. There's like, like, just get over it. Then the next day you wake up, you have a cup of coffee and it's a whole bright, fresh new day. Or, sometimes it takes a few days and that's okay too.
Yeah, that's okay too. It's okay to doubt yourself as long as we rebound quickly.
Yeah.
Figure it out.
Yeah. It's not, that's the hardest part of the job. That's the hardest part right there. The rest of the part, the actual writing the proposals, thinking about money, going out and painting, like, what else is hard? It's the exposure and exposing yourself to that risk that the thoughts are going to come back and say, no, there's some fault with me. There's some reason why I can't do it or I'm not good enough. And those ghosts are so mean. And so you got to just, those are the only thing standing in your way, right?
Yep. It's really just whatever's in our own minds, because we determine if we listen to it, we determine what we price, we determine how quickly we're going to get up and going and be on time. Like, it's all in our brains.
So much control. It's really frightening, or just leeway. And I'm just trying to think of if it doesn't happen often. But sometimes I'm dragging on the way to work. And within an hour, you just say, okay, and sure, I'm still going to go do this. And then you pick it up. It takes an hour or two. It's just like, you just keep rolling.
Yep. You just keep rolling with it. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on and sharing and talking. And I love your voice and your tone is just so like calming. And I just love it.
Because I'm always just freaking out. I soothe myself when It was really a pleasure to meet you, Andrea. Thank you for doing this show. Thank you for your generosity with it. And I'll have you on my podcast too sometime, or follow-up conversations, and let's just strategize how to support. And congratulations on having an upcoming baby. When do you do?
Thanks. In November. We have a bouncing baby boy.
Oh my gosh. It's going to be... I'm so happy for you.
Thank you.
I love being a mom. And it's so fun, like all the face painting and the Halloween and the creativity. And the rooms had amazing murals. We had Tinkerbell, we had sports, we had graffiti. Like, it's just so much. It's such a fun way to be an artist with kids. I think it's really fun.
Yeah. As soon as we found out it was a boy, I was like, well, I'm not doing princess castles, so I'm going to go paint his room right now, that same day.
And every year their birthday cake is going to just be like the best birthday cake. And all the party invites, like I did like detective, but it was like a real detective thing and all these funny things. Like, I loved using my creativity with making everything fun. Yeah. And my family is so satisfying. So anyway, so I keep going on. Pleasure to meet you.
You too. Thank you again so much. Have a great rest of your day.
Have a great day, Andrea.
That's a wrap. Thanks for listening to another episode of the Artist Academy podcast. If you've liked this episode and you've liked the tips and inspiration that you've gotten from it, then I want to encourage you to join our Artist Academy Advanced membership. We are currently going through the yearly 4th quarter success plan designed to help you, the artist in need of a little marketing direction, make money with your art during the most profitable time of year. If there's ever a time to double down on your art business efforts with promoting and pitching and sending out the emails that you know you need to send out and creating holiday window art and getting clear on what you're offering this holiday season and communicating that effectively with your audience, now is that time. Every year I double down on my efforts to sell during the fourth quarter, and every year I get better and better at it and make even more money than any year prior. For example, like my yearly sale, where I started off making $1,000 in one day the first year I tried this. Then the next year got even better, tweaked my messaging a little bit, and made $3,000 in one day. And then the following year made $5,000 in one day selling the art that was just sitting on my website that nobody had yet purchased, just by enhancing my marketing and promotion efforts with this fourth quarter success plan. Every year I give you the exact game plan that I'm using, refined by years past, in the form of step-by-step videos and templates for you to use to sell your unique art. Whether it be originals, prints, or my favorite, murals. I make it really easy for you to get some help with your art business plan during this very timely part of the year. Go to artistacademy.co. That's artistacademy.co. Or click the link below in the notes to apply and join our group of highly encouraging artists from all over the world. Again, it's artistacademy.co, and I'll see you inside the membership for our fourth quarter success plan.